Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. This is the Gutters, the Culling, my pull list culling. So I just did my order for the month of October, and as I record this, actually, it is October 31, 2015. Happy Halloween. I might even have a spooky story later for you. Well, a story anyway. But first I wanted to talk about my pull list. How self-centered am I? However, I was, as I did my order for this month, I added a bunch of new things, as I always do, seems like. And the list on the website, there's a lot of things I have on there. I have everything listed in alphabetical order, with a few notes beside some things, but I just noticed that the list was growing longer and longer, and my payments are getting larger and larger to some degree. It depends on the month, but I thought, you know what? What if I had to pare down the list some? I spend, I think, a big chunk of change on the comics that I get every month. And I thought, well, what if I had to limit the amount that I had to spend more than I already do? How would I go about choosing the series that I buy? And what would the list end up being when I did that? So I started off, as I always do, making a list, checking it twice. Wrong holiday, I know. But as of the end of October, as I said, it's October 31 as I record this, I have 75 items listed on my pull list. And I divided those up basically into three categories. I have ongoing series, so titles that are open-ended, as it were, as far as I know anyway. And then I have a limited series / I'm dropping titles / titles are ending category. So they're all limited in that sense. And then there's a much smaller list of items that are comics that I have put on, or that I've ordered, pre-ordered, put on my list, but I haven't yet read them. They're that new. So I think a lot of these are actually books that I've ordered in October for later in the year to come out. And so if you don't like number stuff, maybe you want to skip this. Plus, it's just my list, right? I don't know what you're collecting, but I thought it'd be a fun exercise to do in between the Danger Club discussions that I'm having currently in the show feed. So let's talk just real quick about the not yet read ones. I have 12 items on this list, and when I finally went through all of the numbers here, it was interesting to note how many titles that I was getting from the various publishers. And so out of the 75 things I have listed on my pull list, the not yet read 12 item list, so there are 4 DC and 4 Marvel. Now 3 of those DC titles are actually Vertigo titles, and the 4 Marvel titles are all new titles, all new number ones that are coming out, including Avengers. Let's see here. Squadron Supreme, I'm going to try out. Ultimates, and the Vision series by Tom Taylor, I think. The guy who does Grayson. It's amazing how I can remember things that I've read 30 plus years ago in comics, and yet I can't remember the current writer or co-writer of the Grayson title, who's also doing Vision. Anyway, I'll skip right past that. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 more items on this list that are one each from each of the various publishers. So Action Labs, I'm going to try the Actionverse. Dark Horse. Well, that's the Black Hammer series. It's kind of on hiatus, I guess. They announced it back in March or April of 2015. And then something happened with I think it's the artist on the series, and they didn't want to continue or push the series forward without the artist being able to fully get everything done. I think, if memory serves. So it's on my list, but it's not really coming out yet. But I left it on this not yet read portion. There's a new Image book. Oh yeah, Black Magic. That's the Greg Rucka series. And a new book that was in the October previews from Aftershock Comics. So a new publisher, which is Insexts, Insexts, Insexts. That looked really interesting. The art did anyway, so I decided to give that a try. So those are the things that I have on my pull list, but I haven't yet read anything of these. But I'm looking forward to them. I didn't talk about the DC books. So there's one DC book that I'm trying, the Harley's Little Black Book series, I guess. I think maybe it's a bi-monthly series. I don't remember, but I thought I'd give that a shot anyway, just to see what the big deal is with the Harley comics that have been coming out in the last year or so. And then the 3 Vertigo series, Red Thorn, Lucifer, of course, since I'm a big Lucifer fan, and Clean Room, which I currently have. It arrived, but I haven't read it yet at the time of this recording. The larger list here is the limited series or /dropping/ending. So it's limited, and they're limited series in a couple different senses. And there are 35 items on this list. Now, I'm not going to go through all these, other than to say that I have. Let's run through the numbers here. So I have by far the largest number here is from DC, 13 titles, 4 of which are Vertigo. Next, down from that, a big drop is, or about half of those are Image books. And then there are 4 Marvel, 3 each from Dark Horse and Boom Studios. So there was a bunch of things from Boom that I was getting. And then I believe, so then it's 1 each from Archie, which is the new Archie series. 1 Valiant title that's ending. The Lady Mechanica series from Joe Benitez. The SIP Kids series, which I heard was basically done after this year. So I just put it in that list. 1 Action Lab series, that's the Venture comic, I believe. And 1 Oni, which is basically the end of Six Gun, if it ever comes back. Anxiously awaiting that. But there's some good things on here, many of which are not yet reds as well, but I decided to put them in this list since they are limited series. For example, there's the new Sheriff of Babylon 8-issue limited series, or Superman American Alien, or the new Boom Studios series, limited series Venus that I'm really interested in, along with a few that have already started, such as Twilight Children, which, by the way, I read that first issue, and wow, that was a lot of fun and gorgeous art to look at too. The new Titans Hunt, some things that are ending, like Secret Wars, or the Secret Wars tie-ins that I got, which was Squadron Sinister and Thor's. Thor's was a lot of fun. What else? Nameless is coming to an end. Midnight Society from Dark Horse is coming to an end. I included on here, Fade Out and Ivor. Time Walker ends with number 12. But I also included on here Nowhere Men, which the season 2 series has been announced, but I don't think it's been solicited yet. Maybe in next month's previews, if I remember correctly. I don't know. And a bunch of series that were or currently on my quote-unquote ongoing list, but I put them on there because I knew going into these that I would not be sticking with them, such as Detective Comics. I jumped on because Peter Tomasi is writing it, but it features Commissioner Gordon, or former Commissioner Gordon, James Gordon anyway, in that bat mechanical suit. and dealing with the Justice League in the first part of the story. So I thought I'd try that out, but I knew that I probably wouldn't be sticking with it. What else? Oh, Cyborg. But I knew going into that I probably would only get it for the first story arc, just because it's not really grabbing me. Let's see what else here. That's pretty much it, I think. I did include on here the Miracle Man hardcovers that Marvel has been putting out, because that's just a reprint of a series that has already ended, but I wanted to get all the hardcovers that they were putting out. I have all the main run Miracle Man issues finally. After all these years, I finally got the last issue within the last 3 or 4 months. I think I bought that off eBay. But I still wanted to get all the Miracle Man hardcovers, so I put that on this list. And then finally, I have so that was 35 titles, and then finally I have 28 titles that I listed on my ongoing portion of this list. And so I'm going to take those 28 and whittle those down to 10. If I had to bring it down to 10 titles, and maybe 2 more for an even 12, an even dozen. Let's see. So I have here, I'm just going to run down the list of these just real quick and then give you the numbers. So I have Astro City, Constantine, Daredevil, Doctor Strange, Grayson, Invincible but in the trade format, Justice League of America, Lazarus Letter 44, Martian Manhunter, Mighty Thor, Morning Glories also in trade format, Paper Girls, Paybacks, Powers, Rachel Rising, Revival, Robin, Son of Batman, Saga, Sex Criminals, Star Trek New Visions, the John Byrne series, Superman, Lois and Clark that just started, Superman / Wonder Woman, Velvet, the Wonderful Velvet. I wish more of that would come out more frequently, and Wicked and Divine. Oh, not and I just read this today, the day of recording, that Welcome Back, which was a 4-issue limited series from Boom Studios, is now an ongoing series. So that's now in the ongoing list. So that puts us at, let's see, 9 titles from DC, one of which is a Vertigo title, 9 from Image, 4 from Marvel, 2 from IDW, and then 1 each from, let's see here, from Abstract Studios, Terry Moore, that's Rachel Rising, and Dark Horse, 1 from Oni, and 1 from Boom. That's the new Welcome Back series. So 28 of those. So how do I basically chop that into roughly half, a little less than half? So I did just a real quick scribble listing, trying to get to 10 titles, and I ended up listing, let's see here, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I put 15 on my initial list and then whittled that down to 10. So off the bat, from that ongoing list that I just read you, I had to choose, several DC titles, because I like DC characters a lot. I have basically since I started collecting. So there's a lot of those on here. Anyway, Astro City, which has been phenomenal since day one. Even before the current incarnation of the series, I've loved this series with Kurt Busiek and the various artists that have been involved. The main one, whose name I am blanking at the moment. God, I hate when I do that. Next on the list is Grayson, which, if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, or even read stuff on the blog, that I'm a big Dick Grayson character fan. And this current incarnation of him as a spy for Spiral, I had a lot of reservations when it was announced and before I started reading it, and now it's one of my very favorite superhero comics that is being published today. So Tim Seeley and Tom Taylor are doing a bang-up job. Boy, I hope I'm saying that name right. Tom Taylor? Tim Taylor. No, Tim Taylor's the Home Improvement guy. One second while I check something here. Okay. God, boy, my memory sucks, guys. I'm sorry. It's Tom King, and you all knew that, right? You were all screaming at me through your speakers or your headphones or whatever. Yeah, Tom King. Sorry, Tom. And of course, Michael Janin doing the art on here has just been phenomenal. And was it Greg Cox? Am I right? Jeremy Cox, man. You know what? I should just stop naming names and just talk about titles, because otherwise I'll be doing this all night. Anyway, so back to the list. Wow. I put Invincible on here, but I knew that one is definitely there's an asterisk next to that title. I'll come back to that probably. Justice League, but that also has an asterisk. In the form of, as long as Jeff Johns is writing it, I'll stick with it, because I've enjoyed what he's done for the most part on that series. There's a few Image books now: Lazarus, Saga, Velvet. So those are my main three Image comics. I did have on here another Image comic book, Revival. That was in my initial top 10. But then as I scribbled more titles on here, I replaced that one. Probably because I think the story is starting to wind down a bit, and it's probably going to be ending soon. Whereas I see Lazarus, Saga, and Velvet, those could continue much longer going forward than where they're at currently. And I just love them. I love the characters involved. They're just really strong books, both from the story standpoint and the visual standpoint. So great stuff. Rachel Rising is also on this list. As long as Terry Moore continues to put that book out, I will continue to buy it. And I had on here Robin, Son of Batman, because it's just a lot of fun. It's a hoot, as I like to say. Patrick Gleason has been surprisingly good at the story that we're getting, along with him continuing with his very strong visual sense that we got before under the title Batman and Robin. And then my runners up, I guess. Let's see here: Morning Glories, that trade collection, Powers. Letter 44 from Oni by Charles Soule, and I don't remember the artist, man. I suck at this. But that's been a surprisingly strong series for me. I fully expected to drop that series a long time ago, but each and every month it continues to entertain and surprise me. So it was on the longer list. Star Trek, the ongoing series, has been, just like Letter 44, surprisingly good, surprisingly strong especially for being a multimedia title, a media tie-in title. But it's Star Trek. It's my first fandom, one of my first loves, as far as popular culture item goes, and that may replace one of these other titles up here. And the title that I thought of that I haven't read yet, it's actually a new title that's coming out from Marvel, which is Mighty Thor, but it's under the same creative team that we've gotten before from a Thor series. Jason Aaron, Russell Dodderman on there, and I don't remember the other artists involved, but I know going in, even before I get the series, I know I'm going to get a great series. So that is actually replacing Revival for me on this list. And then as I looked at this list again right before recording, I decided that I would possibly replace Invincible with Star Trek. If I was really pressed to, if I knew that Invincible was ending, or I knew that my interest in Invincible was ending, and I think I'm at that point. But I've been thinking I've been at that point for the last one, if not two trades, and I continue to get it. I did drop, in a similar situation, I did drop The Walking Dead because I was getting that in trade form. and enjoying that up until volume 21. I got volume 22, and then I decided that was it. But I knew going out of volume 21 that I was pretty much done with that series. But Invincible is currently have Invincible up to volume 21, and there's been a change in direction with the characters and the status quo, and so I'm intrigued what's going to happen going forward. But I kind of get a sense the writing's on the wall for me for that series. So I would replace that with Star Trek, just based on how strong that series has been for me. So given that, so if let's see, if I had to choose out of the three other remaining in my alternates here, Morning Glories, Powers, Letter 44, to replace Justice League, if Jeff Johns ever left that title, I mean, it depends on who came onto it, right? But I think for me personally, I know a lot of people don't like Johns' work on that title, let alone his work in general, but I like his work. And so if he left and the other person who was coming on wasn't as strong for me for those characters, then I would probably drop it in favor of, what would I choose here? Like I said, Letter 44 has been really strong and surprising. Powers has been one of my favorite comics for a very long time, but it's getting a little long in the tooth, and it's a bit repetitive these days in terms of where the characters are going and what they're going through. So I still love it. I still love to read it. It's just, I'm not really that excited about it. So I guess I'll have to go with Morning Glories, because that is a really interesting series, and to read it in trade, I don't know how I'm keeping up with it, quite frankly, because I read a trade, I'm like, what is going on here? Did I miss something from the last trade that I read, or is it just the time travel bits to the story that where we jump forward and jump back, and we're in the present, and now we're in the past again, and it's just very, very strange. But I'm loving it, and I probably would continue with that one if Johns left Justice League. Okay, so that's what I got here. Astro City, Grayson, Invincible, Justice League, Lazarus Saga, Velvet, Rachel Rising, Mighty Thor, and Robin, Son of Batman, with a couple alternates, Star Trek replacing Invincible, and Morning Glories replacing Justice League, in that order. So that would significantly cut down the cost that I spend on comics every month. But while an interesting intellectual exercise, going from 75 titles down to 10, boy, that would be boring, wouldn't it? Not being able to read all those comics. So what does that get me? That gets me 1, 2, 3, 4 DC titles, which includes 1 Vertigo title. 1, 2, 3, 4 Image comics, or 5 depending on the situation. And then essentially 1 Marvel and 1 independent title, or 2 independent titles if I include the alternates. So again, mostly DC, mostly if you consider Image an independent publisher, and most people do. I kind of don't think of them as a small independent publisher. I think of them as the fourth point in as far as the major comics publishers go. So you have fourth? I'm at third. Marvel, DC, and Image, and then you have all the other independents. But that's just me. That's how I think about it. Yeah, it's really interesting. To me, the things that I've chosen here. So obviously, I have a DC bias, but there's strong representation from the independents here. Only 1 Marvel title that I would keep out of all the ones that I plan on getting. I did the total number as far as everything that I have on my list, And like I said, DC. If you include Vertigo, DC is the clear number catcher in terms of the number of titles. There are 26 altogether. Image is next with 16, and then Marvel with 12, and then we get all the rest of the 75 are made up by the other independent publishers on the list. So my cold list is definitely DC and Image heavy. So I'm not trying to make any kind of comments about Marvel or any other publishers. It's just that's how it worked out. Those are the titles that I'm enjoying the most right now that are on my pull list. So what is on your pull list? What if you had to go through this exercise, what would you end up with? How many titles are you collecting in general that are on your pull list, and how many could you get it down to? Let's see, if you have what in other words, what would your top 10 be? And you could always let me know the answers to those questions by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com or contacting me on Twitter at longboxreview, or you can leave comments at the blog longboxreview.com. And I mentioned that I might tell a spooky story. I don't know if it's really spooky, and it's kind of it was spooky to me when it happened to me. So this is a personal experience in honor of Halloween. This happened many, many years ago where I was, I want to say 9 or 10-ish. And my family always was in the habit of leaving our bedroom doors open for some reason. I don't know why, we just did. And my bedroom, which I shared with my brother, we slept in bunk beds. And at the time, I was sleeping on the top bunk. And my feet were pointed towards the door. And so, and also, the other thing you need to know is that my bedroom was right next to the bathroom that we had in the house, which was, literally 2 feet away, door to door, from my bedroom to the bathroom doors, 2 feet away. And sometimes, my mother would get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and she would come, go to the bathroom, and she would just kind of pause at the door and just kind of check on us, because she had woken me up by her going to the bathroom, and so I knew that she did this. So there was one night where I was woken up by my mother going to the bathroom, and the light was on. The bathroom light was on, so the light was pouring into my room through the door. And I just kind of woke up and realized that she was standing there in the doorway, just like she always did. And I kind of raised my head up, saw her silhouette in the doorway, and just kind of looked at her for a second. Didn't say anything, and she didn't say anything to me. And I laid my head back down, and I went back to sleep. So the next morning, I get up. I think I went to school. I came back home from school. We were having dinner. So, this is 12 hours later or so, something like that. It was probably longer than that. Anyway, and so I just, casually mentioned the fact that, I think I was curious what time it was that she got up and went to the bathroom. So I asked her about that, and she said, I didn't get up last night to go to the bathroom. So who was that? I know I wasn't dreaming. I know that's the first thing that you're thinking of. Oh, you were just dreaming. I was not dreaming. I woke up fully from a sound sleep. I know I wasn't dreaming. I just know it. And you're just going to have to accept my word on that. I was not dreaming. Well, maybe it was somebody else in the house. Well, nobody else in the house was about that same height as that silhouette that I saw in the doorway, in the entryway of my room. My sister was much shorter than that. My brother I could hear him below me, sleeping, breathing. My dad was taller. So who the hell was that? So either my mom was lying, playing a trick on me, and I don't think so, or there was a presence in my room. But it was an odd presence because I did not feel any kind of dread or fear. I didn't feel like I was being imposed upon by something. It was not an eerie, it was an eerie experience after the fact, but at the time it wasn't. It was just this thing that happened. But I felt calm. I didn't feel threatened in any way, but there you are. My one ghost story to tell you. If you have any stories like that, please let me know. I already told you where you can reach me. I hope you enjoyed this look at my pull list and maybe a few stories along the way. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.